welcome to another episode of the House Husband Diaries. As always, I am your host, Carter C. And today we are on the coronavirus, globalization, China, American greed, global economics. I mean, it's a mismatch of just crazy topics. So I had these ideas of what I was going to talk about with sort of kind of the way. So this is like the non Republican side of me, right? For those of you that are more liberal that claim that I'm a Trump homer or some Republican homer, and I'm like, no, honestly, and I'm like, just let me get there. And you guys are like, all your videos are anti-democratic or, Democrat. And I'm like, no, just right now, that's what's interesting in politics. There's this idea that somehow the free market is great and free market is somehow just in economics, whatever. But there's some shady business backroom deals that go on. And America has kind of proved that out, that we're too far in this free market economics ideology. And then you look at, we have just sort of sold out the middle class in America. Well, with this coronavirus and the COVID-19 and the stock market and the oil, OPEC and Russia, it's really brought to light much more quickly than I thought, much more quickly. And so my topics that I had are getting completely blown up, and I'm trying to now, like, they're still valid topics. It's just there's now an additional layer of current events that actually tie into all of these. And so I'm trying to like, you get these videos out as fast as possible, but the news is faster every day than putting out one video a day. So I need to put out like 5 of these videos a day in order to keep up with stuff, and that's just not possible. Woe is me, right? Just kidding. It's not woe is me. So anyway, so the idea that I had for this video a long time ago was sort of this bottom line economics. And it's sort of like, let's take globalization and boil it down to what it really is bottom line economics, which is inherently selfish and un-American, is what I would say, which is not a right-wing platform. It's American greed. We've gotten too complacent as a country of being the world power, and people have taken that complacency and they've tried to milk it, and they've done a very good job. They're very successful in milking it to many of our detriments. So what was really crazy to me and what kind of changed this episode was some headlines in the news the other day was that China has now threatened, and I don't know when this airs, I don't know what the situation is going to be, but China has now threatened to withhold the medicines to heal people of the coronavirus. Did you know that China makes our medicines? Because I didn't know that. I mean, I'm 100%, call me ignorant. Like, that won't bother me at all. But like, does the average person know that our medicines come from China? Like, I knew Happy Meals and the plastic toys and the bullshit Dollar General stuff comes from China. Like, I know all the cheap shit comes from China. I 100% agree with you. I know that. I also know that iPhones come from China, but those are very high quality and very, like, those are terrible working conditions. And I don't want to say anything bad about Steve Jobs now that he's no longer with us, but I read his biography by Walter Isaacson. It's a phenomenal biography, and I'd love to have had a conversation with Steve Jobs when he was alive, and I just, there's a lot of greed there. Even though he doesn't want to publicly admit it, and he didn't want to, and yada yada yada. Like, that was sort of, let's be honest, right? Without saying anything, let's just be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. Anywho, producing iPhones, producing Happy Meal, plastic toys, whatever else, all that's one thing. You can chalk some of that up to just cheap plastic crap that we're getting it for a good price. You can chalk iPhones up to, just greed and trying to make deals that that you're just trying to make as much money as you want to. But to produce medicines that we create or find cures for, and then we produce them overseas in places that don't have the same working conditions, like, that brings a whole different question into my mind. Why would we allow that, and why do we support that as a country? But then to find ourselves in a situation where maybe our biggest competitor on the world market for economy and for military power is somehow they have somehow they're a competition, and yet they produce the medicines that we actually found out, but they produce them for cheaper, and so somehow that's okay. That doesn't make any sense to me. So what happens if we get into like a world war, and now our medicines are produced in China or some other country, and we can't get them because we're in a war, because of a trade situation? And like my previous video, right? Is this the end of globalization? Is coronavirus showing us in a small way, like, are we going to learn our lesson from coronavirus, COVID-19, with only a slap on the wrist, and where the danger is kind of mainly corralled with the 70 plus, 60 plus year olds, and kind of the immunocompromised? What happens when there's a virus that can wipe out everybody or most of everybody, and the only way to get the cure is because some other country, China or any other country, produces it? And yet, we don't have those production facilities within our own country. Can we really view ourselves as a world power? Do we have any say? These are all questions I don't know that most of us as Americans have asked at this point. And this is with SARS and the bird flu and everything else, and they all may be the same. I didn't keep track because they were all whatever. And this is like the first real virus or pandemic where we go, wait a minute, like, this is affecting not only a lot of Americans, but it's affecting our economy, plane flights. I mean, it's wild what all is going on. And then to see the news and say another country produces our medicines for us. We are at their beck and call. If they want to call in debt, if they want to say, hey, whatever, if they want to play hardball, they can. Is that not a wake-up call to you? It was a huge wake-up call to me. And that's why I'm doing this video. So I hear a lot of poo-pooing on like the Make America Great Again slogan. Trump, anti-Trumpers, Make America Great Again, is isolationist, you're racist, whatever. But I would ask you, if you disagree with that slogan, if you disagree with those people, to think again about what that actually means. To me, making America great again means it means being able to not depend on other people, potential adversaries in a war, for necessary life-giving medicines or what have you. I mean, Make America Great Again is not about white power or whatever. It's our country, all of the people within our borders. We want to support, and being at the beck and call of another country or other countries really puts into perspective where we could be. I mean, what happens if we get into another world war, things aren't going our way, and we can't save our soldiers, our people, because we don't produce what we came up with? I don't know that that's ever happened in the history of the world, of any people group, that they would come up, they would use their intelligence, their schooling, their research, and then they would then share that with another country to produce that same thing for cheaper, and then get into a skirmish or some sort of situation and then find themselves no longer able to produce what is life-saving. It's fascinating. It's a totally different scenario than I think we've ever experienced in our lives, and I think in the history of the world. So with that being said, I just want to bring this to a close. It's a short video, and it's just sort of like, it's one of those things that it gets me thinking about our healthcare, our rising healthcare costs. I thought rising healthcare costs maybe was a direct correlation to the fact that we weren't outsourcing overseas, the production of our medicines, and that we were keeping that in-house in this country because we wanted to keep the purity, because we wanted to keep the quality at a certain level. We wanted to really be in charge of that. And so maybe that's why healthcare costs were rising at an exponentially faster rate than other costs in America. But then with this coronavirus and this COVID-19, it seems that we're actually producing a lot of these medicines overseas. We're having overseas, production facilities produce these things for us at a much cheaper cost. So we're giving them our intelligence, our knowledge, or whatever we know, and then they're producing it at a cheaper rate, but yet we're still being charged an astronomically high amount. So even if you disagree with the whole first 12 minutes of this video, there's a question there for why are healthcare costs rising out of control when we're actually using globalization to, which should lower costs. It's crazy. It's absolutely fascinating. So I just say all this because I'm really fascinated. These are questions that I don't think the news answers. I don't think modern journalists actually go into this sort of depth. If they do, they're silenced by somebody with money. And this is just kind of an opportunity to have a conversation with people that lean both ways, left and right, to say, hey, what do you think about, a situation where we find ourselves in a potential, pandemic or war situation where we are not, as a country, America is not in control of its supply of medicines. I never thought of that until yesterday, really. So let me know what you think. As always, like, subscribe. I've got my 40th birthday coming up in May. I keep saying it in all the videos. I'd love to hit 1,000 subscribers. If you like my content, you like my content. If you don't like my content, you don't like my content. It's cool, but let me know what you'd like to hear. And I'm getting everything dialed in with Mike from Treasures Galore, Rodney Greenway with the Forest Fin treasure hunt. But I'd also like to do some live videos on political and economic discussions. I know those are a little bit more touch and go. So if you'd like to be a guest on the House Husband Diaries, talking about politics or travel, economics, or Forest Fin treasure hunt, send me an email, carter@hhdiaries.com, and love to have you. It'd be super fun. And, as always, I hope you're having a great day. Thanks so much for watching this episode of the House Husband Diaries. Until tomorrow, have a great day.